He's blown his gasket, he's reading the Rioters Act, and this is what has led now to just this performance contract. But that is just emblematic of the mediocre performance that is coming from the CSs. People have been questioning also the caliber and the content that we have from our CSs. Some of them, others have said that, you know, it is purely ceremonial office. The engine behind the offices is what really matters. The PSs, that the technical team is what that really matters at the end of the day. But they say leadership rises, or on organizations
all rises or
falls on leadership. This is what he had drawn there, Victor, and we can see here incompetence is tolerable. Punctuality is where I draw the line. Let's just begin from there.
Actually, that's the story. That's the story.
Okay.
You see, Dibal, let's begin to ask the question: where does responsibility and public service delivery turn? It turns on the public service, so that it's the various ministries, the various directorates, the various principal secretaries that ideally run and account for government. And of course, the ministers or the cabinet secretaries provide policy, oversight, leadership, and so on. So if you want a competent policy maker in a cabinet secretary, then you know what you're looking for. If you want competence in the public service, then you also know that the heads of those public service arms, the PSS, for a long time, PSS were always technical people. People who rose through the ranks because of experience. Somebody like Mudaura, a very good example of what a principal, a civil servant was. Even at his advanced age, was still the pivot behind Mwai Kibaki's leadership. Joseph Kenya, a career civil servant, rose through the system. Mwai Kibaki himself, a career civil servant, somebody who had spent all his time in public service, getting onto the pinnacle, was able to get hold of government and lead it well. The problem we are having today, and right from the Jubilee time, is that you have people at the top of government who are essentially politicians. They have no track record of ever run anything or any private company or any public service.
Even a shop.
Even a shop. No. They say this. They are selling chicken and other things. So the point then is that when you have people at the top, then you expect that they will surround themselves with people who have the net experience, aggregate experience of public service. Now they go and pick everybody else except competent people to be cabinet secretaries, and then you pick principal secretaries who then are anybody else except career civil servants and so on. So what do you expect? That you can tolerate incompetence, but you cannot tolerate them coming to meetings late. So that cartoonist guy is spot on. Of all the things we are saying, you cannot measure what you don't have. You cannot expect somebody to deliver what they don't know how to deliver. You cannot expect reforms to come out of a cabinet secretary whose total life and training has never epitomized reform, so to speak. So here we are, setting ourselves up so we can read the Rioters Act for all we want.
So do you think this is purely a public gallery, a PR exercise that is coming from government? Because they knew, those are whole debates.
The other Senate member.
About the language here, can tell you, what we say in management is what cannot be measured, cannot be done.
Peter Drucker.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now look here, timely release of capitation. What is timely? Timely is it in a week, 3 months,
that's a standard.
4 months, okay? Improve transition. Improve from what?
To what?
To what? Tame inflation.
How do you tame it?
By the way,
revenue. My friend, look, the language itself here tells you that they did not focus, that they are unlikely to do anything prudent management. What is prudent management?
But Prof, I think it's unfair for you.
Absorb allotted.
No. I think it's unfair for you. You need to read contextually, because you're just reading the highlights as well.
You see, the highlights is supposed to be so specific, because there are specifics here. Mobilized 14.3 billion. That's specific. You failed to do that. We know you didn't do it. So we are saying, even the capturing here, this fellow captured him because we want them to highlight this mistake. I can tell you one thing I've seen with the Kenyan journalists. These fellows are very brilliant. When they want you to see what is wrong with the entire document, because they can't put it here, they put the sentences like this here. Even if you go to the book, you will find this sentence like this. These fellows are very accurate.
I find it unfair that we'll have a cabinet secretary, let's say treasury, like Ndungu, that if you do not stabilize the economy, you'll be fired. You know, I mean, there's a confluence of factors that really stabilizes an economy than one person.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah, and you are taking cognizance also of the realities around with the global order and what is happening internationally that is affecting the economy. If you say that now the pressure is on you to stabilize the economy, don't you think that is such a task that cannot be realized by one person? And you're setting him up actually to fire him.
You know, Dibao, and Martin will tell you this because he's a corporate governance expert. This thing was hurriedly done. And if you ask me, it is a PR process. When you're undertaking performance contracting, you ought to have very serious indicators. As Professor says, when you say you want to improve something, you have to be very clear that it is now at here, we want to improve it to this level. When you talk about transition, of course you have to look at the baseline. This is where we are in terms of transition. These are the numbers, and this is what we want you to deliver within this specified period. And we will conduct evaluations for that particular level. When you talk about capitation, then you have to put a timeline to it. When you say timely, what is timely? And you can see basically where I sit, these guys have been set up. When you leave the president to decide timely, or to decide improved, or to decide enhanced, then you will be fired, because it is the president to decide what is enhanced and what is improved. So, and I can see, if you look at the CS, she has been given very clear targets that she has to raise 14.3 billion.
That's good
for HIV. That is a very good indicator. It's a target. It's a target. It's a very good indicator, and it is achievable.
Don't you find it maybe it's punitive in light of the global fund that the money was lost? So we have to plug that particular hole.
But if you look at what Murkomen has been given, that his role, he has to spend 7.6 billion.
Which he has. He can spend
it.
You can spend it in a day.
Yeah.
So
Not in a year.
They ought to be
in ongoing projects and new allocations.
There ought to be a very well thought out process.
Okay, and look at that one of energy. Construct 824 kilometers crude oil pipeline, 150 biogas units in 1 year. 824
kilometers in 1 year.
In 1 year, that construct a pipeline from Mombasa to Eldoret.
Yes.
In 1 year.
Actually, it's beyond 800 kilometers is all the way to Malaba. Yeah, from Mombasa to Malaba.
All right.
In 1 year.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
And I think this was a game plan that even at you extending the SGR, and this is where we were questioning. You have a parallel road.
Yeah.
You remember there was such a discussion before that we need to have SGR and a parallel road alongside the SGR. And people are questioning, why then do we have a parallel road along the SGR? And this seems to be now the issue. I want us to mull our minds over it. Because I think this is a duplication and wastage of resources. If we were to build a road alongside the SGR, where now? Well, this is the 824 kilometers crude oil that you're talking crude oil pipeline. This is the pipeline. But still there was also the issue of road. I don't know if it was dropped or it's still there. I don't know.
The road, you're looking at the dual carriage from Mombasa to Nairobi. That's what you're saying?
That I think is in the pipelines. I think even the contract has been awarded and something is happening. Because you see what you're saying is that there's movement on the road. If you're going to Mombasa, you need to make it dual. And indeed, if you ask me, we should have a dual carriage all the way from Mombasa
To Malaba.
to Kisumu to Malaba. So this like you must open those axes to as you go to Eldoret, Malaba, and then Kericho, Kisumu.
It is not even okay.
Busia.
Let me just do my research. I'll come back on it as well. But let's just comment on the reality of this particular key performance indicators that have been flagged here.
Yeah. Dibal, performance contracting ought to be done by the officers who are going to implement or specific ministries. It seems this performance contracting was cut and paste and given to the ministries without their own input. You would have expected they would say, yes, we want to deliver this in 100 days, in 150 days, in 1 year, we'll have delivered 1, 2, 3. And therefore the ownership would have been theirs and it would have been more concrete in terms of deliverables. So that is something that is wanting in this performance contracting. Number two, you do not expect people to implement anything if they are living under fear. What's happening is that this regime has created fear such that anybody under the president is living under fear or being sacked or losing their jobs. And therefore that fear is going to create a decision crisis. A crisis which will make some of these issues not to be implemented in the period under review. The third issue is that it was good PR for the president the day he was announcing, and even locking out some of the PSS, some of the CSS and PSS was also good PR for him because he knows it resonates very well with people. But I would have expected that instead of locking them out, allow them in, and after the meeting, you can talk to them.
Write the first warning letter.
Yes, and quietly talk to them that this is not how we deal. But you know, when you harass an officer who has people under him, you are making the person to be, you are undermining the very office that you have appointed that person to lead. Because because presidents really, it's not that 5 years as a minister, at times you get the wrath of the president, but he will not do it in public. Even President Moi, as many people would not have really liked him, would not do that. He would sack you. He will not be reprimanding you and you are still on the job the following day. He would sack you, then it is for you to find out why were you sacked, or for people to tell you are sacked because of 1, 2, 3. But this kind of thing, the president is undermining his own administration. Because the moment you make people look like they are under the spell of fear, then you do not get the best out of it. The last time I knew is that if you get good professionals and you put them together and you allow them to synergize as a team, they will give you better results than if you are to micromanage them. Yeah.
And so there is a morbid fear even within these offices.
Yeah.
I want to just tease out the question to join up with this. Confidence of this cabinet, because we've seen the president introducing other advisors around his cabinet that were questionable under what provision of the constitution were these purely advisors, and he was very categorical from his letters. They are coming all there on a par with the cabinet secretaries as well.
Yeah.
What sort of signal or message then is he sending when it comes to read the Riot Act?
Yeah.
The gesture again of inviting outsiders, so to speak, within that particular.
If you allow me, Dibal.
Can I just take a short break, then we circle back to that?
And don't give to the senator.
The senator can see
it. On this one, the Senate is quiet.
The senator of the University Council. Yes. Good enough. Allow me just to take a short break. We take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we continue to look at the leadership. The cabinet secretaries, are they up to scratch? As